Well, hello everyone. This is Lawrence making another video. Okay. Um, my last video was me showing some recent thrift store music CD finds and did video on some Paul McCartney albums as such. You can go back and watch them. I've been trying to get ideas for videos and a few hit me, and this one is about if you're a fan of a certain music, be it classic rock or current rock, hip hop, um, you know, mainstream popular music of today or pop music. About This is about exploring another genre of music, okay? To, in other words, get out of your comfort zone and discover something new. And that's what I did in the 1990s because I haven't done the math, but I was in my late 30s, and I thought popular music was starting to wane a bit, or there was a lot of stuff out there that I wouldn't say it didn't appeal to me, but not as much as what I was listening throughout my life. And I wanted something different and something not necessarily new. So I thought this would be a good time to explore other genres of music, other avenues, which I did. I actually took a time machine and went back music from even the late 30s or early throughout the 30s and a little bit into the late 20s and 40s and 50s, and it sounds like I was venturing into my parents' music, and which I was doing. And I started listening to the what I call the classic vocal era, the Frank Sinatras, the Peggy Lees, the Billie Holidays type of vocal style, the Tony Bennett's, the Mel Tormes. I started listening to all kinds of jazz from different eras to the big band, early New Orleans, the bebop, the hard bop, and you know as it as jazz developed and went a little mainstream with Dave Brubeck, and I was, just discovering all kinds of things that was interesting, and I was been dismissive uh, previously because every generation thinks that their own music from their time is the best. And I grew up in the '70s, so I was getting that 19 early 1950s rock and roll as it develops in the '60s with the Beatles, Cream, the Stones, and then my era, the um, Elton John, David Bowie, uh, and just all of that stuff. And so I felt supreme. I liked the '80s a lot. Not going into that, but I thought that was really the last great decade of popular music, and it has gone downhill since. But that's for another video. So this left open an avenue for me to venture into other areas of music, and I really, really, really hit on jazz music. And this video is primarily for people who like rock and roll music, but who want to broaden their horizon and perhaps look into jazz. Now, jazz music has a rich history, which I'm not going in detail. Excuse me. You know, I got the Wikipedia page here. I'm going to pause a minute and just read a few things from it. Okay, jazz is a music genre. I always mispronounce that word. That originated in African African American communities in New Orleans, Louisiana, in the late 19th and 20th centuries. Its roots are in blues and ragtime. Okay. Um, excuse me. Its origins are actually in, along with blues and ragtime, spirituals, marches, classical, European, and West African music. That's pretty cool. Okay. Now that I have spent over 5 minutes as an introduction part, I would like to suggest anyone who is a rock and roller or any form of music and they want to venture to something new, broaden their horizons, I would suggest jazz. And I'm going to pause, take care of this cough, and come right back and make a big suggestion. The jazz music is primarily an instrumental form of musical expression. Now, there is the vocal side of jazz as well, but mainly jazz is instrumental, longer pieces, a lot of improvising, okay, which makes it cool. And particularly if you're a rock fan and you want to get in jazz, I'm going to suggest one area to go to, and that would be guitar jazz. Let me pull this out. While the guitar early on was not a dominating instrument in jazz as rock guitar is in rock, it slowly, worked its way up from just being a kind of a fill-in instrument with some solos here and there to coming into its own. And one of the pioneers of jazz guitar is, I'm pulling out the CD right now, I've got a stack here, is Charlie Christian, and I'm looking, oh, I got to get better organized. Okay, got it right here. This guy is like the godfather of early jazz guitar. Okay, he really helped make it an established instrument in jazz, and he worked. Thank you for bearing with me. He worked with the Benny Goodman sextet right here. Okay, there's him and Betty. Unfortunately, Charlie died, I think, of tuberculosis when he was just like 22. So he died at a very young age, but he did live long enough and worked enough to make an impact in jazz music. Enough about the history of jazz and one of the major figures of jazz. I just want to recommend some CDs, and the reason why I have recommended jazz guitar to rockers who want to get into jazz is for this. Well, you're still on the guitar, you're just hearing it in a different way. And jazz guitar is a lot smoother, um, but it could be rupturous too, you know. And you know, there's always the top 100 of best guitarists ever, and a number of jazz musicians have worked their way into that. But then you got the 100 list of the best jazz guitarists, and I mean, if a rock guitarist is a construction worker, then a jazz guitarist is a surgeon, is a brain surgeon. You know, the um, the demands and what it asks of you is just incredible. Um, this is one of I've heard him called the Thomas Edison of the guitar in his inventions and um, innovations in developing its sounds and techniques is Les Paul. And while his playing is very smooth, um, um, it's incredible. And this is one guitarist who had made that list of 100 greatest rock guitarists ever, right here. So Les Paul is a good source to go to get in that doorway of jazz guitar. Another artist, and he worked with a violinist called Stephanie Grappelli, if I pronounce the name right, is we're getting to the European name, so I'm just going to show you the CDs. Django Reinhardt, okay? And this is what you would call gypsy jazz. And Django, when he was so determined to learn to develop his skills on the guitar when he was just a young boy. Unfortunately, he grew up in Europe in the gypsy community, and they traveled in wagons. And there was a fire in one of the wagons he was in, and he ended up burning a couple of his fingers where you fret. And I think he only had 2 fingers to work with, but somehow he managed to reteach himself the guitar with just the 2 fingers. And what he did was incredible. And Stephanie Grappelli, the violinist, they teamed up, and they were a dynamic duo. It was incredible. So if you could get any of these recordings or go on your streaming and listen to, it's incredible. And then a more recent jazz guitarist, and I'm sure you've heard this name, Wes Montgomery. Okay, he had a beautiful tone to his playing, and it was so fluid. And you know, he could play with accompanied by horns and you know, a jazz ensemble. And this is a renowned recording of his, Smoking at the Half Note. And another one right here. So if you could find any of these CDs, I showed them to you so you could write them down and go to Spotify and listen to them. That's great. One thing I have to warn about Wes Montgomery, during his recording careers, he liked to record the current day pop songs, you know, which is not really truly jazz, but he put the jazz influence, but I would go for the pure jazz stuff first. Then there's the Antonio Carlos Abam Jobam, okay, and this is like Latin jazz, bossa nova, and if you could find this CD, I mean, you put this on a quiet spring night when there's a nice breeze, open a few windows late at night, and this is better than dope. Believe me, this will just put you in the mood. I don't endorse any illegal drug use. Please stay away from that. Get this instead. It will not ruin your health. It'll make you happy. In the 1970s, jazz was kind of dying, you know. You had pop, disco, rock, but jazz was, kind of went underground, and the records weren't selling until this one came out, George Benson Breezing, okay? And this was a huge #1 hit, and it really helped bring more awareness of jazz. And we had fusion. Oh yeah, fusion jazz. I didn't include that in the video, but look that up. So jazz, George Benson Breezing album brought new life into jazz. This is on the Warner Brothers label. It came out in 1976. And a lot of jazz purists said, oh, this is not really jazz. It's kind of the opening of smooth jazz. And I'm not a big fan of smooth jazz, but I love this album. It's just so breathtaking and wonderful. If you go and after that, George Benson continued to have success, and his music got even more commercial. But let me pull these out here. Prior to the success of Breezing, he was on a label called CTI, which was a big jazz label in the I think in the mid '60s into the '70s, and he put out a series of albums that was more pure jazz, but they were really funk. He combined funk and jazz, and I'll show you what I got. Isn't that cool? Good King Bad. And these are wonderful albums. They're all gatefold and has that gloss cover. George Benson, Bad, where Michael Jackson stole the word. And on this one, George Benson does a cover of the Jefferson Airplane, White Rabbit. And these all have good sound quality. So if you come across any of these albums, maybe at a thrift store or an independent record store, pick them up and body talk. I was very fortunate to get these albums. I got them at early stages of the vinyl revival, and people had dropped their albums off at thrift stores prior, so I was able to find these for like $2 each. Because of the condition, the great condition they're in, if I went to Discogs or sell them online, I could get a lot more than $2. So these are like investments. Okay, I want to do a summary. Oh, I forgot one here. Charlie Byrd, Bossa Nova. Charlie Byrd is a fabulous guitarist. So if you see any of his music on vinyl or CD, get it. me show you one other thing, and then we'll do a conclusion. Okay, rock and rollers. I'm recommending, if you want to get into jazz, I would recommend seeking the great jazz guitarists. And believe me, there are plenty more. I just brought out the more household names, okay, but there are a lot more, believe me. But if you also want to get into other areas of jazz, which is another video, but I would recommend Charles Mingus and this album of his, Blues and Roots. I'll pull out the cover. This was actually the cover, okay? This is a reissue CD. Blues and Roots. Charles will provide you them. He was a jazz bass player who branched out and became a band leader. He wrote music and recorded all these fabulous albums. What he does is provide the bing bang boom, the in your face chaos that rock has. Okay, the bombastic sound. So Roots and Blues. Oh yeah. And this is one of the most famous albums. Mingus. Mingus. Those are all great. And if you ever run across them, get them. Okay. Conclusion. And I'm looking for something. Last summer, I'm always out to the thrift stores and the garage sales buying UCDs. And last summer, I had an incredible score. And I'll show you. This ties into the jazz guitar. This is it. The ultimate CD box set. Progression, 100 years of jazz guitar. And this is put out by Columbia House Legacy. 4 CDs with you can see how thick it is, a wonderful booklet, a company booklet. It's kind of hard to, show off. Hey, there's a Django right there of historical archive photos and texts that were written by jazz music historians, critics, have you? And they even included Jimi Hendrix because jazz music did influence some rockers, okay? And you can read about it. There's just so much history of jazz you could read about. Okay, what makes this box set? Okay, open it up. You got the 4 CDs. So interesting is some box sets like this, they'll take the most famous names and give them 3, 4, 5 tracks selections. But this one, every artist gets only one selection, which leaves room, nice write-up right there, which leaves room to include other guitarists who did not make a big name for themselves, but did make an impact, okay? So you got the St. Louis Tickle by Wes Osman with the Osman Duel 1906, the first track. And then 1921 Changang Blues, Sam Moore. I mean, this is a treasure trove of jazz guitarists through the years. a lot of them didn't make a big name for themselves. So it's not loaded up with the George Bensons and um, the Charlie Bird or George Benson's. Um, a lot of this is like a documentary of jazz guitarists of the more um, unknown today, but unknown to the general public. Then I found this one here put out by a European label called Proper, and it's called Hitting on All Six, and it does have a smaller booklet that's kind of molded like the other ones, and these booklets have what's really important to the jazz fans when they're getting compilations that includes, along with the tracks, the recording dates, and who played on them. That's very important. These both box sets just do that. Oh yeah, there's Charlie Christian right there, the first guy I was telling you about. Young man when he died. But this box set's a little different as far as they will put more selections of one artist instead of just relegating it just one song. So Les Paul gets 3, Charlie Christian gets about 4 tracks. So Eddie Lang, early guitarist, gets a couple of tracks. So we'll conclude. Jazz is such a universe. I mean, you could set out and say, I'm going to find out everything I can know about jazz music, and you'll be able to learn a good chunk of it. But it's impossible to know everything. It's like studying every star in the universe. I will recommend this series, if you can find it used, or go to your library. This came out, I don't know, 2000. Okay, it's the Ken Burns jazz, and if you're familiar with Ken Burns' work, he's a famous and noted historical documentary filmmaker. He's done his first big one was Civil War. He'd done one on baseball. He'd done one on the national parks. He'd done one on probation. And this was one of my favorites right here. This is not the actual documentary on DVD, but it's the selections of songs from that series put in here from the very beginning to jazz as it was current. Okay, and the box here you got all the titans of jazz. Miles Davis. I got a memory block. Duke Ellington, Billie Holiday, Benny Goodman, Louis Armstrong, Ella Fitzgerald. I think John Coltrane, and I don't know who the other guy is. So this is just all the songs that were used in that documentary. So if you go and seek that jazz documentary series out, and when you start watching it, it's like reading a good book you don't want to put down. So if you find it, watch 1 or 2 a night. It's just stunning. Okay. So I showed you some good CDs to get into. if you're a rock guitarist and you want to explore jazz, I'm recommending to go to the jazz guitar. And there's much more, noted jazz guitarists out there. I'm just getting to the basics. And I want to show you one other recording, but I need to pause and I'll be right back. I got to go get it. Okay. Everybody heard the name Miles Davis. He should be on the Mount Rushmore of jazz artists. And this recording he made came out in 1959 called Kinda Blue. And I got the Legacy Deluxe edition of it. 2 CDs, with one with the recording, the original recording, and then all the outtakes and all that. This is the gateway for a lot of people who want to get into jazz. I think it was the first jazz album to sell a million copies. Now, keep in mind, jazz albums is a very specified audience, very targeted audience. It's not big, so you don't see jazz albums a lot on the chart selling millions and millions, okay? But this one in time did sell a million. And what's so nice here is when you think of jazz, you think of you know, a zillion things, but this is very minimalistic. It really is the mood of the instruments what it conveys. It sets a mood, and this is great to listen to really, really late at night or any time, but especially at night when the world's gone to bed, when the household's gone to bed, and it's just you, your thoughts. Put this on and get absorbed in this album. It'll take you to another dimension. I once heard somebody say when they brought their baby home from the hospital and put the baby in the crib to sleep at night, they would put this on at a very low volume as background music because they wanted this album to be the first music that their infant ever heard. You know, an infant couldn't process it or anything, you know, but they could hear it. And that, to me, that sounds like good parenting. Okay. I would like to do more videos on jazz, although my knowledge is very limited. I'm trying to read more about it, and these pictures are just so cool in here. Let me show you one. Thank you for bearing with me. Oh yeah, this look at this. Isn't that cool? I mean, to look at pictures like that, you know, dated, that was taken in 1930s, 40s, and 50s of jazz musicians together playing. It's just so cool. I saw one in here that I'll show. And in early jazz, the jazz musicians would dress in nice suits and clothes and all that. But as time progressed, they have eventually dressed in the hip clothes of the 60s and got into the style of African clothes too, which was, you know, cool. You know, that culture. So jazz music is just so cool. It's, like I said, it's an instrumental art form. There is jazz vocals, which I will do later on. So I hope I sparked your interest, okay? And that you will go to, you know, your streaming services and start listening to some of this music. It does require your attention. It's not like pop music, something to hear while you're doing other things. It does require your attention. And Also, jazz music, it doesn't hit you on the first note. It doesn't burn on the first couple of notes. It's like a slow boil. You know, you put a pot of water on the stove, and it's takes a while for that music to start really boiling. But once it gets going, it's incredible. I will put some links, recommended listening, at in the description too. This video ran much longer than what I thought it would be, but there's a lot to talk about jazz. Uh, please, please, I need some viewers. I need some hits. I need some people commenting. I need some thumbs up. I do. I don't know why I don't get people to watch my videos where I go to other videos, 10 million views and 350 comments, you know. I'm not looking to, um, I want to keep my YouTube channel community small, but I just need some, you know, if I get 3 comments a video and then a few more here and there, I'll be happy. I want to keep my YouTube page a small community. Thank you for watching, and I want to wish everyone a wonderful day. My next video will be an idea I had in my head about the comeback of a format that's starting to come back a little bit called EPs. Thank you for watching, and have a good day. Bye.